What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Now, of course, 2020 is starting up and we're starting to get some announcements. A lot of them have been delays, which we're actually going to talk about another delay here today, but Nintendo put out a roadmap and then started teasing some new announcements coming up. We're going to take a look at that roadmap and I guess what they could be kind of teasing towards. We'll see, because there were some games that people may have forgotten about that Nintendo went ahead and just kind of put on an infographic and put it out there. We'll go over that today. Also, we have to talk a bit about Sonic, because it looks like SEGA is kind of setting up 2020 to be, I guess, the year of Sonic, with a ton of information coming this year. And then also, what's going on with The Last of Us Part 2, because a job listing popped up, and we're going to go over that as well, because I'm not 100% sold on where people think that's leading to. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps out. You guys have been doing that quite a bit recently. It has been helping a lot, so I do appreciate it. And make sure you guys subscribe down below if you're new here, so you can stay up to date on all of the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We're actually going to start today with a delay. Like I said, everything's getting delayed, it seems, especially out of the first half of this year into the back half, or in some instances indefinitely. We don't have a time that it's coming out, and that is Dying Light 2. They took to Twitter, as you see here, Techland did, explaining that Dying Light 2 is actually going to be pushed back from its original spring 2020 release. So at least it was a window and it wasn't an exact date. They say, but unfortunately we need more development time to fulfill our vision. We will have more details to share in the coming months, and we'll get back to you as soon as we have more information. We apologize for this unwelcome news. Our priority is to deliver an experience that lives up to our own high standards and to the expectations of you, our fans. So we don't have anything at all outside of that. They don't even have an idea as to, oh, is it coming towards the back half of this year? Is it next year? We don't know. And that's a shame, because Dying Light 2 actually looked really good. They put out some gameplay of it, and I thought, hey, we're seeing gameplay of this thing. Maybe it really will make its release window of spring 2020, but maybe there were some bugs, some issues. They were trying to do a lot with this game, and that's kind of what we're seeing a lot of these delays come from, are these large scale games that the scope is just massive, and it seems like their bugs are popping up, things are happening that they have to fix, and unfortunately that means it has to be delayed. But Dying Light 2, as long as it comes out in 2020, could be up there from what we've seen so far as maybe something that is considered one of the higher quality games of the year, and maybe that's what they're pushing for, is to try to get into that game of the year conversation, but we'll see whenever we get a new release date for it. Also, we know Ubisoft has had some issues, right? They started delaying a ton of games out as well. This was last year, though, where they started to talk about how things were not working out to their standards and expectations. So they started to push back things like Watch Dogs. Of course, we saw that. Gods of Monsters, that was pushed out as well. And we hadn't really heard much outside of that. We believe an Assassin's Creed game is coming, but it seems like they were looking at least reflecting on a lot of the games as a service stuff that they've been doing, and how maybe they're just putting too many of those games out, and it seems like they might be working towards maybe some more single player or just less always online type games, right? Well, we have another hire here for them that kind of points maybe towards that, and it's getting people excited because it could also point to a Splinter Cell, and I'm a little concerned because I think Splinter Cell won't work as a live service game like they want it to, at least well enough. But VGC, as you're seeing here, had the story on this one with Maxime Beland actually coming back to Ubisoft after being at Epic Games for a while now. They said 8 months or so, and yes, the Maxime actually worked on some of the different Splinter Cell titles with Conviction and Blacklist, both of those, of course, from Ubisoft, and also working on things like Rainbow Six Vegas. So outside of that, they had Assassin's Creed. Yeah, it seems like Maxime has some experience with games that aren't just always online and all this. Maybe they're being brought back to possibly do another Splinter Cell? I hope so. I hope Ubisoft has that in mind and how they can pull it off without it being attached to the internet at all times with a live service game. Oh, and real quick, if you're an AMD fan and you're a bit disappointed with what they showed at CES, which wasn't their quote-unquote big Navi or what they were going to put up against NVIDIA's big-time video card like the 2080 Ti, they have at least at this point reaffirmed that big Navi is still coming this year, it seems anyway, which would be their more expensive enthusiast-grade video card. Dr. Lisa Su herself did confirm this, and it looks like we just have to wait a bit longer. I guess people are pointing out maybe Computex. That might be where this happens. But you can see here, WCCF Tech actually had the story on this one where they did mention this in the Bring Up, which was their video title, where Lisa Su did talk about this, confirming that AMD's next generation RNDA 2 based Radeon RX enthusiast graphics cards will be arriving this year. So we'll just have to see whenever they want to show us their $600 video card we'll go with. Hopefully it can push NVIDIA, because they need to be pushed. They're just kind of hanging out. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We'll start with Sonic 2020. It's this new initiative, apparently, that SEGA is doing. Gamatsu had a full write-up on it. You can actually see some of the images that it seems like SEGA was putting out here for Sonic 2020. I guess it's going to be the year of Sonic, so Sonic fans, hopefully you get a game you're looking for or something. I don't really know what else they're going to do, because a game is obvious for Sonic, right, that we would see, but it looks like they're going to be releasing information on the 20th of every month. And you might be wondering, well, what was the news for yesterday? That was the 20th. Well, apparently that news was the Sonic 2020 project itself. Sure, why not? Sega also released some artwork, which was mostly PC and smartphone wallpapers, and they did a Twitter header background that they also put up there as well. So it looks like they are serious about having new Sonic information on the 20th of every month. Now, look, the obvious thing, of course, it's something to do with a video game, right? That's what a lot of people are hoping for, and we are kind of due for something. Sonic Mania 2? Do that. That would be good. I would like that. Sonic Mania was great. Or maybe they do another 3D Sonic like how they did Sonic Forces. That would be less great. Or maybe they just get crazy with it, right? And we get Sonic Adventure 3? Would that be something that people would like to see? I think so. Now, there's also a chance they do other forms of media. We, of course, know the Sonic movie, of course, coming up here soon. Maybe they do something with an animated TV show. Maybe they do something with more of like comics. But it looks like on the 20th of every month, we will get something. Now, it could be small. The announcement yesterday was apparently the announcement that there'll be several announcements of this year, and then some artwork for your phone or your computer, and they changed their Twitter handle. Basically, the header, they just got ready to do this. So it wasn't much of an announcement technically, but it is cool to look forward to something Sonic every month going forward. Maybe one of those will be a big thing like a game. Maybe there'll be smaller things. Hard to say how small it will be. It could be artwork, for example. But it is exciting to know that Sonic will get a push from Sega, and I like to think this is because they have something big planned and not just a bunch of little announcements. I'm hoping one of these will end up being a big game announcement. Even Sonic Mania 2 would be enough to get the internet really going and excited to have another 2D Sonic that, would follow up what a lot of people consider as one of the best Sonic games ever. Like, straight up. It's 2D Sonic that's really, really good. So yes, a sequel to that is what people want. But I do wonder if Sonic Adventure 3 would be bigger for a lot of people, and if that would make the internet get really excited, even more so than Sonic Mania 2. Let me know about that. Or maybe let's do Sonic Forces 2. That would go over well. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo and their roadmap for 2020. They sent this big image out, a couple of them, to different outlets, press outlets. I think it was Nintendo Europe that was sending this out, but it basically just made the rounds everywhere. And you could see this here. They have a couple of them. I guess we'll start with the one that really shows the dates and kind of their timetable for some of these games. We, of course, know, Tokyo Mirage Sessions already out. We get that. Snack World, that is coming out on February 14th. Darksiders Genesis, which, by the way, I did like that game. I played it on PC, not on Stadia, but PC, and I did like that one. That is February 14th as well. I will do a video on it when it comes out there, just so I can see how the performance is on the Switch, of course, and even some of the consoles, just to put a full video out on that one, as I did enjoy it. About 15 hours, by the way, so a fairly good-sized Darksiders spin-off style game. Of course, Devil May Cry 3 is on the 20th, February 20th. Then we have Pokemon Mystery Dungeon on March 6th, Animal Crossing on March 20th, Trials of Mana, which is looking better and better every time I see it, April 24th. Then what's interesting about this, Battle for Bikini Bottom, of course, Rehydrated. I think that's the first time we've seen the date. Someone will have to remind me or correct me if we've seen it before. But I saw that and I said, I don't know if we've seen a May 24th date for Battle for Bikini Bottom yet. So there we go. And then, of course, we have the expansion pass, and that's June and then autumn, obviously, after they told us that not even that long ago. But the thing about this is, if we move over to the other infographic that they put out, The Outer Worlds, no date. These are all games that just don't have dates right now that we're expecting now more than ever to come out in 2020 because they've just put it in their roadmap. So No More Heroes 3, I guess I don't really expect it to fall to 2021 anymore. The Outer Worlds, of course, Panzer Dragoon. These are all games that we know is coming this year already because they've basically told us that. And same with Minecraft Dungeons, even telling us April. Doom Eternal is a bit of a question mark, right? Because it was supposed to come out the same day as Animal Crossing, but they have moved it out of there. I don't know if that's just because they need more time to finish the port job after maybe they changed some stuff up internally, right? And maybe, of course, they didn't want it to be right next to Animal Crossing on the Switch because that will be a big-time game for the system. And then down from there, Bravely Default 2, No More Heroes 3, Xenoblade Chronicle. It does look like, when you start looking at this side, along with the confirmed dates already, it does start to pile up. However, Nintendo also mentioned several big announcements that will also be taking place. This is not all of the games coming out this year. Shocker, right? There won't be any Nintendo Directs going forward. We won't have any extra games getting announced. This is it right here. No, we pretty much know that, but they really wanted to let us know. I mean, they drew everything out here for us in this nice little graph and showed us all the games that are coming 2020, don't have dates yet, and then there are a bunch of big announcements, we'll say, coming as well. It is exciting stuff, and the biggest announcement that we don't know of yet is the holiday game. Now, I want to point out one thing with this graph that they put out. Bayonetta 3 is not on it. That's kind of concerning, isn't it? Like, you figured Bayonetta 3, if it is a 2020 game, would be on there. Maybe they're saving that for the big reveal in a Direct. Maybe that is a 2020 game, like, I don't know, we'll say October, right? That seems like a good month for it. And maybe they want to reveal it there. That's kind of what I'm seeing here is they're leaving some stuff off of this graph, I think on purpose for Direct to have a reveal, and I think Bayonetta 3 is one of them. But the holiday title, is it Breath of the Wild 2? Is that what it is? That's what a lot of people are wondering. Is it a new Mario game? So while it already looks kind of stacked as we get along here with some of these titles that need dates, keep in mind, there's still quite a few things that I think will get announced this year, and it's going to get some people pretty excited. So look forward to, I think, a pretty solid year from Nintendo, especially as we get towards E3 time. Then we start to see more stuff, and the holiday title probably being what their E3 booth will be dressed after. It's gonna be some exciting stuff. Next up, I want to show you one of the weirdest sales charts I've ever seen for the UK charts. It is strange. There are some odd games on there that you wouldn't expect. I'm only gonna show you top 10, but in the top, I think 20, 26, 27, there are some 3DS games in there that have not been charting for quite some time. It's strange, yes, but let's actually go to the top 10 here because I also want to point out Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is in there at number 1. Awesome work. I would like to see Bandai, though, really take a chance on Dragon Ball Z and put some serious money into a game because it's going to sell. Like, it's Dragon Ball Z, and if it's really, really good, I think it would sell even better, but I do believe that franchise, if they really make a push towards, like, Super, for example, should get a AAA budget, right? It should get it. And I think it would do really, really well if the game was just overall better. To me, so far, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is fun, but it's very easy to see its flaws and see that it's just not a great game overall when you look at the quality of it. So Bandai, look into that. Consider really, really going for it with Dragon Ball Z because the sales are there. This topped the chart. We'll see how it does next week. And then, of course, we'll see in the Famitsu sales chart to see where it places there with actual numbers. Now, going down from there, Modern Warfare is 2, FIFA 20, Jedi Fallen Order, WarioWare Gold. I'm going to explain to you why that's there when we come back because that jumped from 827 all the way up to 5. Then we have Grand Theft Auto 5, Luigi's Mansion 3, Yokai Watch, which is a re-entry apparently, somehow getting number 8, Just Dance 2020, and then Minecraft. So how did WarioWare Gold, and by the way, several other 3DS games were also in here that we can go over that somehow found its way back up there. Like, I don't know, Metroid Federation Force at number 26. Yeah, it jumped all the way back up there when it shouldn't have been anywhere near the top couple hundred. It's number 26. Well, it looks like because of the way the UK sales charts track sales by units and whatnot, it appears that a retailer there has actually started to just liquidate their stock for 3DS stuff, marking it down, moving it along in order to clear out for what'll probably end up being more Switch titles, PlayStation 5, and the Xbox, apparently. And then we'll get series of the Xbox, PS5 Xbox. They're going to start doing that, of course. So because of that, a ton of these games moved along for probably a couple bucks, if that, right? And that actually jumped them up in the sales charts. They'll be going next week. It's just interesting to see how the sales charts are kind of manipulated at times based on sales where they liquidate some of the games. So the sales charts can look kind of weird sometimes. I wanted to point that out. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, though, at the top. Good to see. But I would like to see Bandai really go for it here. And hopefully they see that, hey, a single player RPG story-driven Dragon Ball game can work, but they need to get a little more creative. Original story or Super Next would be great. And then our last bit of news, let's talk about The Last of Us Part 2, because this news made the rounds and it made some people nervous, some people interested, some people excited, because it has to do with a job listing from LinkedIn. You can read more about it. I have a spot here for you, a source from VG247. I know LinkedIn is kind of strange to navigate and read through and stuff, but we had pretty good coverage there from VG247 where they talk about how it looks like Naughty Dog is looking for a position that would be at least familiar with NVIDIA GPUs, Vulkan, DirectX 12. Now, of course, people immediately look at that and say job listing for all of these things that aren't really related to the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5, right? That, of course, is running on AMD's chips, so why would they need to know anything about NVIDIA or even DirectX 12? That'd be something the Xbox would use, right? Well, people are wondering, does this mean that Last of Us Part 2, because of this one job listing, would be coming to PC? I will admit, it is not impossible someday Sony could do that. Someday, right? Like a while from now, maybe? But there's also a rumor going around that Last of Us will have a spin-off, Factions, their multiplayer, that would go to PS4, PS5, and PC. That is more likely than their big flagship Last of Us Part 2, which is designed to sell consoles, would go to PC immediately. Now, they could also just be looking for someone who is just familiar and they're like, hey, you never know. We want somebody who has as much knowledge as possible around different GPUs, different architectures, different qualifications in general, so we hire the best person because you never know how the gaming landscape will change right now. That's more or less what I'm looking at. I don't think this is like, oh, well, that's it. Last of Us Part 2 is going to PC. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I think a spin-off could, a multiplayer spin-off, sure, why not? But Sony is, I think, still looking at their first-party titles releasing pretty much exclusively on their PS5 or PS4 before they start moving it around as it gets older. Horizon Zero Dawn is going to be 3 years old soon. Yeah, at that point, Sony's not squeezing much more money out of it. Why not introduce it to a whole other sector of gamers and then, to be honest, probably charge them $40 a piece for it and make a whole bunch more money? That makes sense. Moving Last of Us Part 2 over right away doesn't really. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This one is from Keith saying, I didn't even know Little Town Heroes came out yet. That is one of the top comments of the day yesterday that was voted up. Seems like a lot of people didn't know about Little Town Hero. It was originally called Town, and that was like its working title. They changed it to Little Town Hero. I think they got to a point where they realized it was going to be just a smaller game in general, and they didn't really try to push it or market it much beyond that after they realized that. It's unfortunate because that is one of Game Freak's games, and outside of Pokemon, I have to say, Game Freak does kind of have a hard time with their stuff outside of that. I mean, Pokemon, I think, carries Game Freak pretty well because it sells really well for them, right? Like they if you really look at what Pokemon is and how it's really changed, it really hasn't changed that much. If you look at stuff around it, it's just Pokemon sells. So they're like, oh, we'll make some changes here and there, we'll move along, and it'll sell. But when they try to step out of like that comfort zone with Pokemon, we get Little Town Hero, and people didn't even know it came out. And now we're getting a $50 collector's edition of it, which is strange because they're going to sell a couple copies of it, I guess. I'm not sure. But yeah, the marketing for Little Town Hero wasn't good. And I think a lot of it has to do with the game just not being good because I didn't like it at all. It's really not that good of a game. And hey, maybe we'll see what happens next time Game Freak tries to do something other than Pokemon. And ladies and gentlemen, let's go do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's Nintendo, their 2020 roadmap, and their big announcements that they are teasing right now, their announcements. What do you think they're gonna put up next to the stuff they've shown here on the roadmap? Because there is an obvious spot for holiday and fall titles. I mean, you think No More Heroes 3 might be towards the back end of the year, but where are they going to place these games that don't have dates and months or even windows? And what's the big game they're going to announce this year, possibly at the Direct coming up or E3? It's interesting stuff there. And then what do you think about the year of Sonic 2020? Do you think they have one or maybe even two games lined up, some other media? Let me know down below, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.